Chapter 1, Lost. In a distant universe not too dissimilar from our own, a young woman walked alone in a world of white. Dragging her feet through the deep snow surrounding her, Saffie pulled her coat a little tighter around her neck to shield herself from the icy chill caressing her skin. Confronted by the almost endless expanse of snow, she began to wonder why she was even out there, cold and alone. In her heart, she already knew the answer. She couldn't carry on, she couldn't cope, she couldn't breathe. So she just left. She knew it wouldn't solve anything, but she wasn't about to suffocate in a sea of people who would watch and do nothing, or worse, whip out their phones to capture the macabre moment and share it on social media. If she was going to die, she'd rather be someplace like this, somewhere spacious, somewhere she could simply disappear. She wasn't sure she ever existed anyway, so what difference would it make if things ended here? At least like this, she knew the numbness was real. She could already feel it creeping into her fingers and toes. It was only a matter of time before it seeped into her very soul. But Saffie had been numb for a long time now, and when she wasn't, it was the opposite. Her emotions exploded from within her like a dormant volcano, bubbling away under the surface until they spewed out of her in waves of burning passion, untamable and all-consuming. The more she contemplated her own demise, the more she saw the faces of her loved ones in her mind. Guilt, that was what Saffie felt when she thought of them. They cared so much about her, and she loved them just as dearly. The idea of hurting them made her hesitant. If she left them behind, what if she made them feel how she felt now? She didn't want to be responsible for that, but if she was gone, she wouldn't feel anything anymore. She'd finally be free. They're all that had ever stopped Saffie from doing something stupid, as people put it. Was it stupid, though? To want a way out when you can't see an end to the pain? She didn't think so.
What's the point in keeping someone alive if all they ever get to experience is suffering? Isn't that cruel? Why should a person be expected to keep going on the small glimmer of hope that one day, if you hold on just a little longer, things might mystically get better? We don't live in a world of magic and miracles. We live in a world where being different is practically a death sentence.
Saffie hadn't always thought that way. There was a time many years ago when she still believed in magic. She saw the world for the wonderful place that it could be and fought back against the encroaching shadows with a childlike enthusiasm, bright and optimistic for her future. But beleaguered by bullies and beaten down over and over again, before long Saffie was robbed of her light. Her sense of self became smothered beneath a series of torn and tattered masks she wore to stand a chance at surviving modern society. Everyone acts at one point or another, but Saffie never left the stage. She knew others saw the person buried beneath. She wasn't a good enough thespian to hide it from them, though they never chose to engage with that part of her. Eventually, she realized that her true self was something to be ashamed of, something to keep concealed, gradually becoming more distant until she was a stranger even to herself. From afar, Saffie seemed functional. However, upon closer examination, the cracks were clear to see, strained and slowly crumbling, much like the battered bear she carried close to her wherever she went. No matter how hard Saffie tried to piece herself back together, she'd always end up falling apart again. Which is why she was there, trudging through the blanket of snow. Paranoid, Saffie paused, patting her coat pocket just to check that her beloved bear was still with her. She knew it was strange to carry around a stuffed toy at her age, but she didn't care. The bear brought her comfort in times when she had no one else to turn to. Safe in the knowledge she hadn't lost him, Saffie continued her trek through the winter wilderness.
Sapphire, it's my professional opinion that you are indeed on the autistic spectrum.
the very second she heard the psychologist speak those words, she knew she was doomed.
You're what we used to refer to as high functioning or having Asperger's, but now we tend to just call it ASD.
Saffie thought knowing one way or the other might make her feel empowered, grant her some degree of control that she was sorely lacking in her life, and it did, for a short time. Once her initial relief subsided, though, Saffie felt the nagging weight of the diagnosis pulling down on her heart.
Congratulations! You've been diagnosed with never-ending despair. Just what I always wanted.
She said Saffie wasn't broken, that there was nothing wrong with her, the problem was other people. She told Saffie the world was changing, albeit not fast enough. That one day, with any luck, it would be a kinder, more accepting place for neurodivergent people like her. But Saffie wasn't sure she could wait much longer. Saffie didn't make the trek out into the wilderness intending to die, but she couldn't help dwelling on it. Those kinds of thoughts had become a constant companion, more comforting than unsettling.
I don't think I even want to die. The problem is, I don't exactly want to live either. If I end up back where I left off, things will carry on until I'm withered and old. Stuck, hollow and alone, like a ghost haunting its own home. Or worse, I could be carted into care against my will, left to rot in some ghastly place people put you in so they can shield the rest of society from the inconvenience of your existence. Who the heck would want that?
Saffie would rather take her chances out in the elements. At least like this, she was closer to nature instead of isolated indoors.
I guess, for now, I'll just keep walking and see where I end up.
Whether or not she would make it back home, she elected to leave up to fate. And fate found Saffie sooner than she could possibly have imagined. Chapter 2. Found. Growing weary of walking, Saffie decided to stop for a moment, taking in the pristine white glow all around her before sinking to the ground with a strained sigh. Her winter coat did little to protect her from the biting cold beneath, but she lay still regardless, staring up at the blurry sky as snowflakes danced and drifted above her, falling softly onto her face. Exhausted, Saffie contemplated simply staying there. Closing her eyes, she began to sink slowly to sleep when her rest was suddenly interrupted by a rustling sound nearby.
Excuse me. You can't sleep there. You'll freeze!
Leaping to her feet, startled, Saffie squinted, scanning the snowscape for any sign of the voice's owner.
Who's there?
She called out, wondering if she had merely imagined the sound.
Down here?
Casting her eyes towards the ground, Saffie gasped aloud at the creature stood proudly before her.
Hey there, little one. I'm so sorry, I didn't see you down there. Forgive me if this sounds a bit rude, but what are you exactly? You don't look like any animal I've ever seen.
That's because I'm not an animal. I'm an elemental. And by the way, I'm not little. I prefer stealthy. Creatures like me wouldn't stand a chance at survival if we sauntered around all hideous and huge.
An elemental? So then you're like a snow spirit?
Bingo! Well, a blizzard, if we're being specific. But enough with the introductions. Your body temperature is dangerously low, my friend. I don't know who you are or why you're out here, but we need to get you warm and fast. Follow me.
Before Saffie even had a chance to respond, the creature bounded off into the blanket of white.
Wait!
Oh, come on, Slowpoke. Get those legs moving. The faster you run, the faster we can get you out of danger. This is my domain, and I won't have you pointlessly passing away in the ice. Understood?
But my feet are practically frozen. I can't even feel where I'm treading. Can't you slow down just a tiny bit?
Fine. But if you pass out, just know I won't stop hugging you until you wake up.
Aw, but that sounds adorable. You know, I think I might be feeling a little faint.
Don't you dare! I was only kidding!
But you look so cute and cuddly.
Yeah, well, if you succumb to the cold, I won't be able to bring you back. If I did hug you, it'd just end you even faster.
Why? Do you have like a death grip or something? I can't exactly imagine you crushing me to death.
Come here a second. I'll show you.
Doing as commanded, Saffie approached the elemental who held out its hand for her to grasp.
Now take off your glove and shake my hand.
Holy hell, you're freezing!
Saffie recoiled in horror the moment her skin made contact with the creature.
Exactly. I can only control the element of ice. A hug from me would be fatal in your current condition. Still want one?
Maybe?
Oh, you're hopeless.
So, where is it you're taking me exactly? There's nothing out here but more snow.
Uh-huh. That's because you don't know where to look.
Well, just as long as it's not the way out. I'm not ready to go home yet.
Good, because you're in far too deep to turn back now. You never make it back before the cold claims you.
But why do you even care about me at all? I got myself into this mess. It shouldn't be your problem to deal with.
Oh, but it is my problem. Very much so. Think of me as a kind of warden.
Like the type you get patrolling nature reserves and stuff?
Precisely. It's my duty to watch over this place. Imagine how awful it would be if I just let you die on my turf. Oh, no. No. You're here, and I'm happy to help. So that's that.
Okay.
Saffie wanted to ask the creature more, but her voice seized in her throat. She sensed something from the spirit, but was too anxious to question it further.
We're not too far now. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and everything will be fine, my friend. Come on.
As promised, it wasn't long before the pair reached a thick and flourishing tree line that was somehow obscured from Saffie's sight by the snow. With each shivering step into the forest, Saffie noticed the light changing around her.
What is this place?
Somewhere very, very special. Now don't dawdle. We've got to get you some shelter.
Coming to a stop at the base of an obscenely tall but beautiful tree, the creature gestured towards the trunk.
Well, this is it. We're here.
Right, but where is here?
Look, it doesn't matter, okay? What's important is that if you head inside, you should be safe.
Inside the tree?
Mm-hmm. It's not much, but it should suffice as suitable shelter. There might even be some firewood left over inside, if you want to make it extra cozy. Just give me a shout when you've warmed up, and feel ready to return home, and I'll lead you back.
Wait, so you're not coming with me?
Oh, no can do, I'm afraid. You weren't even supposed to see me. I only showed myself because I noticed you were in danger. If someone happened to find us together, we'd both be in big trouble.
But...
Nope, no buts. I need you to listen to me. This is my domain, and you'll do as I say.
The sternness in the spirit's voice sent shivers straight up Saffie's spine, causing her to fall promptly silent.
There's a good little human. Now, you've lost a lot of strength, so you need to eat. You head inside and start warming up while I forage you up some food.
Nodding slowly, Saffie started to grow concerned. Should she really be taking orders from this strange spirit?
Great! Then we have a plan. Please, stay safe while I'm gone. And don't go wandering around in the woods. There's a foul blight taking hold of this land. I can't protect you if you don't stay hidden. So just sit tight and wait for my return.
The steeliness of the spirit's stare forced Saffie to nod in compliance once more, and it smiled in acknowledgement before ushering her inside.
Are you sure you can't just stay here with me?
Anxiety rose to the surface as Saffie stuttered.
As much as I'm enjoying your company, I'm not supposed to be here. Like I said, it would be bad if I were caught here with you. Just because I watch over this land doesn't mean I can control everything in it. What's important is that you should be safe here.
Unable to speak for fear of allowing tears to escape, Saffie stood still, pleading with her eyes for the creature not to leave her.
I'm sorry, but it's vital that you eat. Rest will help, but you'll never make it home on an empty stomach. Besides, you're my guest. I can hardly allow you to starve. I'll try not to be gone for too long, okay?
Just like that, the creature bowed its head politely before fading into the fog. The very second the spirit was out of sight, Saffie felt a suffocating sense of dread creep closer. Its arrival had been a timely diversion from her ruinous rumination, but now that it was gone, she felt lost once more, and even worse, lonely. Saffie didn't even mind if she slipped away, so why was the spirit so intent on having her survive? And why did it seem apprehensive? No, afraid of lingering here. Whose home is this? What's the blight that the spirit spoke so briefly of? How was any of this happening? Perhaps it was already too late for her. It was all over the moment she fell asleep in the snow. Everything after that had merely been a hallucination. In a desperate attempt to distract herself from dwelling on her demons, Saffie began to explore the small but humble dwelling she found herself in. Scattered objects lay covered in dust, once loved by someone, now discarded and forgotten, while others were arranged neatly on shelves, displayed with pride. Saffie couldn't help but compare the room to the wider world outside. People like her were left to decay, too ugly and inconvenient to consider saving when surrounded by so many beautiful and superior beings. She wondered if the abandoned trinkets felt as betrayed as she did. A self-deprecating smirk spread across her lips as she realized how deep her depression ran, infecting every inch of her, eating her up from the inside. Even now, in this fantastical scenario that bore a striking resemblance to some of her youthful dreams, she couldn't find it in herself to hope, anxiety gnawing at her very soul. Overwhelmed and uncertain, Saffie crawled onto the ledge resembling a bed and curled up into a tight ball, shielding her eyes from her surroundings. If she could just sleep, maybe the spirit would be back by the time she woke up. Chapter 3. Goodbye. But morning came, and there was still no sign of the creature. Saffie stretched, stifling a yawn as she peered outside the small window. It was still snowing. She began to wonder what was real. Had she truly run into a creature out there in the blinding expanse, or was she simply waiting for a figment of her imagination to return and rescue her from herself? If the spirit didn't even exist, then surely there was no point in staying. Shaking away the image of the spirit still in her mind, Saffie decided it was best to leave this peculiar place and head back out into the bleak world beyond. But it wasn't long before she was discovered by a different entity entirely.
Huh, so that's where you were hiding. Pretty smart, but not smart enough.
Blindsided by a blow to the head, Saffie's body was flung across the ice-covered ground, landing with a nasty crunch.
You will suffer for your sins, human!
A fearsome roar shook Saffie's very bones as she lay stunned in the snow.
Ha! My sins? And what about all the innocent lives you've taken, beast? Your very existence is a blight on this earth.
Followed by an anguished cry of defiance.
Innocent! You, who discriminate and destroy every being different to yourselves. Your collective intolerance and ignorance have claimed more lives than I ever will. My endeavors are a mere drop in the ocean compared to all the blood your kind have spilled.
Their lives are an acceptable loss for the greater good of us all.
And that attitude is precisely why you will pay the same price as those who came before you.
Oh, wait, you can't do this.
Perhaps you should have chosen a different path. This road could only have ever led to your demise, demon.
The woman Saffie still hadn't seen unleashed a blood-curdling scream, accompanied by the gruesome sound of flesh and bone being torn asunder. Something warm and sticky sprayed Saffie's face, causing her vision to blur a violent shade of crimson. For the first time in forever, Saffie feared for her life. Finding the last of her strength, she hauled herself to her feet, sprinting through the snow. Blinded by the blood of the slaughtered stranger, Saffie could barely see a thing, but she knew she couldn't afford to slow down.
Stop!
A booming command followed behind her as a great lumbering beast stalked each of her desperate strides. Not knowing why, Saffie stopped on the spot, but refused to turn and face the blood-soaked creature.
There is no need to be afraid.
The beast came closer, so close that Saffie could smell the coppery tang of its victim choking the very air around it.
I saw what you did. You're a monster.
Snapping out of her trance, Saffie ran once again, faster this time, far too nimble for the beast to keep pace with her.
I said stop!
It called out once more with urgency, but its warning reached Saffie too late. In the blizzard, she didn't notice the lake ahead of her, running right into its icy embrace. Floundering in the freezing water, Saffie sank beneath the surface. As her heart rate soared, Saffie gasped, inhaling an ocean, her entire body shutting down from the shock.
Does this flight know no bounds? Poor soul. I had hoped to spare you this.
Ending 1, buried beneath. Or it would have been, but that's not exactly what happened. Because Saffie didn't leave after all. Saffie chose to stay and wait a while longer for the creature's return. Without the strength left to explore, she simply sat waiting for a spirit that never appeared. Saffie's mouth was dry, her lips cracked, and as her stomach growled in hunger, her eyes settled on a length of rope tucked away in one corner of the room. The second she saw it, Saffie stood without hesitation, reaching for the rope with both hands. The creature wasn't coming back, she thought. Just like everything else in her life, it had abandoned her. Saffie refused to face more pain. She wasn't going to die of thirst or starvation. She'd never had control over much, but Saffie was at least determined to define her death. As she caressed the rope lovingly, feeling the rough texture on the palms of her hands, it occurred to her that whenever she'd previously considered ending her life, she never knew what to write in a note for those she'd leave behind. A grim smile crept across her face when she realized there was simply nothing left to say. Almost in a daze, Saffie found the perfect spot to secure the rope to the ceiling, and stepping back, she took in her handiwork, hoping she'd managed to tie it tight enough. Carefully moving a small stool to sit beneath the dangling rope, she climbed atop it, gently draping the noose around her neck before fastening it firmly. This was it. No more hurt, no more responsibility, no more anything. Saffie would finally be free.
Maybe in another life, for another me, things might work out differently. But I guess that's just being selfish. Goodbye, world. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to spend more time with you.
But Saffie didn't truly believe she would get another shot. She just wanted to say something, to stifle the silence before her inevitable suffocation. With one foot hovering above the floor, Saffie shut her eyes and stepped towards oblivion.
No way. Not in my house, you don't. I'm not about to let you turn your life into a horror story.
Without warning, Saffie's body suddenly hit the ground. Gasping for breath, Saffie stared up through blurred vision at the one who snatched suicide away from her.
I'm sorry, but it's not your time. You don't get to decide when you die, friend. That's entirely up to me.
What are you talking about?
Well, this is my home, so we play by my rules. And rule number 1 is no self-slaughtering in the damn living room, okay? But since you clearly can't be trusted not to break that, it looks like I'm going to have to take care of you.
Whatever was going on, Saffie struggled to rationalize it. She wondered if she'd even managed to mess up her own suicide. Her best guess was that she had succeeded, and this must be the fabled Grim Reaper come to take her away.
Oh, I get it now. You're just a hallucination, right? I already died, didn't I?
Saffie's savior scratched its head, bewildered by her dismissive attitude.
Oh boy, what am I going to do with you?
I am kind of peckish, actually. Which is weird, because I always imagined ghosts had no appetite.
Rubbing her eyes, Saffie's stomach growled once more, causing the entity to sigh in exasperation.
Oh, right, that's it. I'm sending you to sleep. We can talk more when you wake up.
And with a swift click of its fingers, the mysterious stranger sent Saffie straight into a deep and dreamless slumber. Chapter 4. Imprisoned. Coming to on a cold stone floor covered in blankets, Saffie sat up slowly in the dark of the night. Saffie's gaze was immediately drawn to the figure sitting on the other side of her cell. She couldn't quite tell if its tone was one of cheer or relief, perhaps a mixture of both. Instead of addressing her speaker, Saffie glanced around her surroundings in a state of panic upon realizing her coat was missing, along with the stuffed toy she always kept close.
Where's Snow? What have you done with him?
Upset at the absence of her most precious companion, the raggedy old bear she dragged everywhere with her, Saffie stared down the stranger with accusing eyes. Saffie's jailer held out her beloved bear for her to see. The stranger's smile did nothing to reassure Saffie, who leapt to her feet to face him.
No, give him back! You're a monster!
Gripping onto the bars, Saffie growled through gritted teeth as though somehow her anger would grant her the strength to break free and take back her bear. Refusing to rise to the question, Saffie chose to stay silent, turning away from the entity in disgust.
Who are you?
The first thought in Saffie's mind spilled softly from her lips. The entity shook Saffie's stuffed bear before laying it to rest gently on his lap.
You want me to call you Snow? Well, no, it's just strange.
Puzzled by Snow's behavior, Saffie sighed softly to herself. She didn't know what to make of him. He had her behind bars, and yet it appeared as though he had no immediate plans to harm her. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger had something sinister in store for her.
Where are we exactly?
Snow took a moment before answering, as though he was considering how much to reveal to Saffie.
That's not an answer. Why have you brought me here? Both. Can I leave? Can you quit being so cryptic? You're the one who kidnapped me and put me behind bars. What's that supposed to mean?
Shooting Snow yet another scowl, Saffie slumped to the cold ground, exasperated.
It's not every day someone stuffs you in their basement, and I suppose it just about beats being dead.
Gesturing to the plate beside Saffie, Snow pulled a feigned smile.
Thanks.
Without saying another word, Saffie tucked into the food Snow had prepared for her. It wasn't much to look at, but somehow the taste was both salty and sweet. She didn't want to admit it, but it was one of the best things she'd eaten in forever. Attempting to hide her face from Snow as she hungrily scoffed the rest of the snacks, Saffie retreated into the darkest corner of her cage like an animal starved. Covered in crumbs, Saffie wiped her mouth and leaned back against the wall, a sudden sleepiness starting to take hold of her. Chapter 5. Interrogation.
Huh?
Awakening with a startle, Sapphire sat up straight to find herself face to face with her captor, his ashen skin pressed against the bars of her cage. Something compelled her to reach out, but just before her fingers could graze his cheek, Snow retreated to the shadows of the dungeon. It was only then that an alarming thought occurred to Saffie.
Did you drug my food? Did you?
Saffie refused to back down, asking more sternly a second time.
So then you're admitting you drugged me. You keep saying that, but how am I ever supposed to believe you when you've got me behind bars? Can't you see? You're not protecting me, you're imprisoning me. Keeping me locked away isn't gonna make my life any better. I don't know why.
A burst of freezing cold air spread throughout the room in an instant, leaving behind a heavy fog. Saffie shivered, and as the fog dissipated, she gasped at Snow in surprise upon seeing the horns now adorning his head.
Because I honestly don't know.
As Saffie studied her captor intensely, the pieces began to fall into place.
Wait, so then that creature, that was you? Then that means you brought me here on purpose. But still, you deceived me. Why didn't you just say it was your home, huh? I should have known with your devil horns and all. Are you some sort of sick pervert who gets off on preying on vulnerable people? Because if so, you might as well go ahead and kill me. I came out here to die anyway. Is that what you want to hear? So, by all means, let's skip to that part and get it over with. Yeah, well, maybe I don't want to be saved. Why do you want me to live so badly? My life is none of your business. How do you know my name? I never told you. No, Saffie's fine. But that's not what I asked you. Fine. I can't see how anything you do will make a difference, but I believe you. You got a strange way of showing it. What's that supposed to mean?
Snow slowly crept closer to the bars before clinging onto them tightly as though in pain.
Sorry, hey. Snow. Wait.
With a swift click of his fingers, Snow sent Saffie spiraling straight back to sleep. This time, when Saffie came to, her prison was bathed in the warming glow of afternoon sun. Had the snow finally stopped? Saffie had no way of knowing. She turned to see her captor keeping his ever-constant vigil over her.
Your horns. They're gone.
Unlike before, instead of answering, Snow gazed past her, a vacant expression on his face. Chapter 5, Branch A, Thaw.
I actually thought they were pretty cool. They suit you. You shouldn't hide what you are.
She wasn't sure how to respond, so she shrugged instead, wearing a self-deprecating smile. People didn't usually point out social faux pas so flippantly. Rubbing the spot on his head where the appendages had been, Snow blushed a little, and Saffie's smile transformed into something far more sincere as she nodded. Snow knew he shouldn't say another word, but he couldn't help himself.
Why? It was supposed to be a compliment.
As if by magic, Snow's horns reappeared as he slinked closer to Saffie, slinging his coat to one side before sitting down on the stone floor in front of her, instead of skulking in the shadows. It was then that Saffie noticed the bandages wrapped around his arm.
Are you injured?
Saffie wanted to ask him about who he used to be, but she didn't want to seem rude. Several minutes passed in awkward silence. Snow could sense her curiosity, and despite his cautious nature, decided to indulge her. Enraptured, Saffie inched closer to the bars, both horrified by Snow's words but eager to hear him reveal more. Shrugging off his story, Snow stood once again, leaving Saffie more than a little astounded.
Hang on. You can't start talking about mighty blizzards and battling blights and then just leave it at that. And I'm guessing you disagree with her? Snow, I'm so sorry for everything that's happened to you. I know that doesn't really mean much, but...
Suddenly slamming his head into the bars, Snow's face contorted with a desperate rage, but Saffie stood her ground. Still, Saffie stared at him, sorrow in her eyes. She wasn't especially scared. In fact, she wasn't entirely sure how she felt, but it hurt. A blast of cool air froze the hairs standing to attention on Saffie's skin. She wasn't sure what possessed her to act, but an overwhelming urge filled Saffie from head to toe, and she grabbed onto Snow's face, kissing him passionately through the bars of her cage. At first, Snow refused to reciprocate, eyes wide in a mixture of shock and fear, but the longer Saffie held him there, the more Snow realized how much he wanted to kiss her back. Despite the constant chill in the air, Saffie still exuded a warmth that Snow had sorely missed. He longed so desperately for his frozen heart to thaw that he feared he would lose himself in Saffie's kindling embrace. When the pair of them eventually separated, Snow glared at Saffie, a grave expression on his face.
I get it, Snow. You're lonely, and that's okay. You have me now. I'll stay here with you if it helps. Wait! What if I told you I love you? Would that change anything?
Instead of sending her to sleep like usual, Snow simply left. Unsure what else to do, Saffie slumped to the ground, resting her head on her knees. She started to wonder if she would ever escape from the prison Snow had put her in. Chapter 6, Branch A, Confrontation. Days passed, followed by weeks, then months, and in all that time, Snow and Saffie never spoke. Snow would bring Saffie food while she slept, and she would eat, forcing herself to stay awake for as long as she could in the hope of seeing him again. But he always waited for her to drift off before approaching, avoiding her purposefully. Snow hadn't meant to keep her captive for such an extended period. He didn't know what else to do. Being in her presence was painful. It reminded him of how he used to be. He knew deep down he had feelings for her, and so he refused to let her go. How could he? Without Saffie, he'd go back to the bleak existence of battling the blight alone. He came to this place hoping to be free, and instead wound up trapped here. Even if they no longer exchanged words, when he returned, wounded and weary, he could at least gaze upon her sleeping form and feel something other than excruciating numbness. But her seemingly endless incarceration was not without aim. Snow had been working diligently with Saffie, oblivious to his plan. Almost every spare second he had went into sewing her bear back together, as though fixing it would somehow repair Saffie's broken soul, and perhaps even his own. Snow knew this was nothing more than a fantasy, but he still believed the bear was the key to freeing them both, and even if he was wrong, he was determined to force that fate upon her for his own sanity. It was a frosty midwinter morning when Snow finally decided to show himself to Saffie for the first time in forever.
You're here.
Saffie gasped in surprise at the sight of him, questioning the validity of her vision. Dispensing with pleasantries, Snow questioned her. Standing to face him with a serious expression, Saffie gripped her hoodie tightly, filled with resolve.
I have. I didn't want to die at all. I just wanted to connect. Being shunned over and over again just for being myself hurt so much that I felt like I had to hide. I wanted to be free, to express myself without worrying where the next batch of abuse was going to come from. To reach out and truly be understood. I was sick of living my life in a cage created from fear. So I tried to find another way out. At first, I believed you when you said you were trying to protect me. But now, I'm not so sure. Keeping me locked away isn't going to make my life any better. I already retreated from the world when it rejected me, just as you did. And where has that gotten either of us? We're both miserable and alone.
There was a glint of something impish in Snow's eyes that unsettled Saffie.
What do you mean?
Revealing a knife from behind his back, Snow smiled softly at Saffie, sending shivers down her spine.
I don't want any more of your help. Listen, you gave me a second chance at life and I'm grateful for that. I really am, but please, let me at least try and make the most of it. Trust is earned. You put me here and then left, just like the blizzard left you. Can't you see you're just repeating the same cycle all over again? If that's true, you'd give me back my bear and let me out of here.
Producing her bear almost from thin air, Snow approached Saffie's prison with purpose. When Snow strode forward, bursting through the cage's door, Saffie realized it was open all along. She could have run away any time, but she was so used to accepting she was stuck that it hadn't even occurred to her to try the handle. Without so much as wincing, Snow sliced open his hand with the knife, before carefully smearing a small amount of his blood into the eyes of her bear. Wearing a slightly abashed look on his face, Snow thrust the stuffed toy into Saffie's chest. Stunned, Saffie struggled to speak as she stared in disbelief at her bear, then up at Snow.
You came at me with a knife. What was I supposed to think? Warn me about what? Then maybe you should try being more straightforward instead of expecting me to decipher all your cryptic clues. What did you do that for?
The sincerity in Snow's smile was enough for Saffie to know his words were without sinister intentions, and so she took back her bear.
I don't know what to say.
Unable to find the right words to convey how she felt, Saffie simply threw her arms around Snow, hugging him tightly.
I couldn't bring myself to say goodbye, and Snow didn't stop me as we separated. Our parting was wordless, so I suppose he felt the same. Somehow, I knew how to navigate the snow-covered woods, where before I would get lost in any unfamiliar surroundings. And so, I made my way home, holding my bear tightly every step of the way. It wasn't foolish. I knew it would take immense bravery to attempt to start over after everything that had happened. But when I sat down on my bed with my bear by my side, I knew that I at least wouldn't have to do it alone.
Ending 6. Together forever.